Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. It's been a very interesting week. I have read a lot, but it's been a bit all over the place in terms of exactly what it is that I'm reading. It is still November, so it is still part of the Australian Readathon, so I have been reading a lot of Australian authors. Not exclusively, but the majority of my reading has been Australian authors, and I get to talk to you about all of them today. So get comfy because we're going to talk about 14 different things. Some of them I'm going to be fairly brief on, particularly the kids' titles, because they will get full-length videos over on my kids' channel at some point in time. Starting off with some picture books, I finally got my hands on a copy of Wild About Babies by Philip Bunting. He has a whole series that's Wild About Mums, Wild About Dads, and Wild About Babies, and this one is really cute. It's gorgeous. It features a different animal on every page and a different fact about babies belonging to those animal groups. So it's very cute, very fun, and I'll be getting my niece a copy of this because it was adorable. I also got a copy of and read Sea Life by Pete Cromer. This is a non-fiction book all about Australian sea life. It is beautifully illustrated in Pete Cromer's collage illustration style. I love his work. I have all of his books so far. They are amazing. And also The Cockatoo Wars, which I think is the 4th book in the Tales from the Bush Mob series, but I wanted to get one just to try it out. This is by Helen Milroy. It is a longer picture book. It kind of has chapters, but it's very much picture book format. And it is about 2 warring cockatoo clans who are so caught up in their fight that they don't realize that there is a giant bushfire coming. They need to band together in order to save the forest. So this was really gorgeous, and I am very eager to try the other books from the Tales from the Bush Mob series. I also read books 1, 2, and 3 in the Hot Dog series by Anh Doh. This is one of his series that I have not read anything of. I picked these up recently from an op shop, and because I'm going to be going into a junior classroom next year, I wanted to have some more of these books because they are very, very popular. They're about 3 friends who get into all sorts of hijinks and adventures, and they were just really fun. Sort of straddling that older junior fiction, early middle grade line is Cat on the Run by Aaron Blabey, which is his new series. He writes The Bad Guys. This is set in the same world as The Bad Guys. You can definitely see those elements in here, and it is about a very famous cat called Princess who unintentionally finds herself being used for a terrorist plot, and suddenly she has to go on the run. So like all of these books, it does kind of end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I am very intrigued to see where the next book goes. This one I will have a full video of up this week on Little Bookish Teacher. And then going into some middle and young adult fiction that fits in with the readathon. I mean, all of those books would fit in there. You could just put them in the free Squarespace because they're all Australian authors. I did read The Broken Rainbow Nearer Deep Time Traveller by Tasma, Walton, and Samantha Campbell. This is a middle grade time slip novel that does feature dreaming stories. Our main character, Nearer, inherits some of her grandmother's things upon her death, and she finds herself transported back into the dreaming to help save Biniel and Pernbiel, who are the husband and wife that make up the rainbow in the dreaming stories. And it is just really fun and enjoyable. It's fairly short, it's very fast paced, and this is based around the stories of the Boonwurrung people, which are part of the coastal Melbourne Indigenous groups. So I absolutely love this. Absolutely fits for young adult or middle grade, set in Australia, set in a hot setting, Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander author and story. Just wonderful, really enjoyable. And I also read Dirrarn, which is by Carl Merrison and Hakea Hustler. This is the follow-up to the Black Cockatoo from last year. Black cockatoos are one of my absolute favourite Australian native birds. Like I adore them. But this series follows Mia, whose family totem is the Black Cockatoo or the Dirrarn. And in this one, Mia has started attending a boarding school. It's far away from her family and her country, and she's feeling that disconnect of being an Aboriginal girl in a boarding school where other people don't try and understand her. She faces racism on a daily basis. She has a good group of friends, but all of them are feeling the challenges of being so far away from their family, from the land that is what they know and what they love to spend time near and around. And you know, dealing with the bullying and dealing with trying to fit into a white society structure schooling system as well. It's short, it's really wonderfully written, and hopefully we get more stories about Mia because I've really enjoyed both books that I've read about her so far. So this obviously fits Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, young adult or middle fiction, orange on the cover, set in Australia, set in a hot setting. All of those things. Okay, then moving into the adult titles I read this week, I read Gateway Catastrophe by Louisa Masters, which is the 5th book in the Ghostly Guardian series. So I've finished that series now, which is fantastic. And I'll say why that's fantastic in a moment, because this was not on my series to finish for 2023, but I've done it. This is Gabe and Tom's book. So for those of you who haven't heard me talk about this series before, Ghostly Guardians is an paranormal romance series. It all takes place on this old estate that has been turned into a hotel, and it is haunted by ghosts. And because this property has been host to a gateway to the demon dimension, or the other world, these ghosts have enough power to manifest and interact with the guests, and that's kind of part of its charm. However, that gateway actually poses a problem, and so throughout the series, various people have come in to sort of help try and stop demons and malevolent forces from coming through the gateway. And Gabe is one of those characters. So he's new to the area. He's there to keep an eye on this gateway and to stop anything bad from coming through. Tom is one of the town locals. He is a part-time Uber driver or equivalent, and he loves driving out to this manor because his nonna has passed on, but her ghost is sticking around, and as he gets to the manor, she pops into existence and he can actually talk to her. So he believes all of the stories around this place because he sees his nonna. Being the final book in this series, this book is actually wrapping up the series arc, which is that there is a threat coming. There is a demon from the other side who is planning on coming over and wreaking havoc on Earth. And in this book, Gabe and Tom have to team up with another demon who is trying to close this portal because he is the enemy of this other demon. Tom and Gabe end up in many forced proximity situations. There isn't only one bed situation at one point. There is no third act breakup in this book. Hallelujah. No third act breakup. It's just really fun and enjoyable. All the characters are really entertaining. All the ghosts are hilarious. And in particular, Gabe and some of his friends are really having to deal with the fact that the organization that he works for, there are people within the organization that have really been working with their enemies this whole time. So there's that kind of betrayal that he has to work through. And Tom is there for him throughout it. So I really love this one. It was fun and just highly entertaining. I also read In Your Pucking Dreams by Sheridan Ann. This is the second book in the Kings of Denver series. This is Cassie and Jackson's book. It is a second chance college hockey romance story. And in this one, Cassie and Jackson were together, and Jackson was very close with Cassie's family. They were basically his surrogate family. And then she up and leaves at the end of high school just before they go off to college and cuts off all communication with him, and he doesn't understand why. And to be honest, the reason why is not fantastic. I'm just going to say that from the outset. And then in their final year of college, Cassie ends up coming home because both her parents have passed away over the last couple of years. She ends up coming home and attending the same college as Jackson, who has just been named captain of the hockey team for his final year. And so they're forced to spend time together and, sort of work through their issues and the fact that basically Jackson feels like the rest of her family cut him off after she left, and so he felt abandoned by basically everyone. It's highly dramatic in that new adult way, and there is a stalker kidnapping essay plot line in here as well, which was not content warning anywhere in the book, which is a gripe of mine. The story is fine if that's what you want. However, the one thing that kept bothering me in the book is just the way the female characters talk to each other. And I get it, they're college girls and they're catty. It doesn't mean I want to read about it. It continued because I picked up Kiss My Pucking Base. I ended up DNFing it after, I don't remember how far I got into it. For that very reason, I couldn't stand the way that the female characters were talking to each other. And then again, I DNF'd Don't You Pucking Dare, again, because of the way the characters talk to each other, because of the plotline in here. I wasn't interested in it. So this was a series that I was supposed to finish for 2023. So I have finished it because I DNF'd half of it. It's all good. Now we know. I gave it a really good go. That said, if you do like new adult books and you don't mind that sort of thing, you will probably enjoy it. It is well written, and it is by an Australian author. It is a self-published series. You might enjoy it. I just didn't because I am past that part of my life. Like, I legitimately don't remember the first book being like that, which is why I find it so frustrating. I also read A Walk in the Park by Rebekah Weatherspoon. This was not for the Australian Readathon. It is an Audible original audiobook, and it is a gorgeous black love novella-length story about Janelle and Andre, who, due to a mix-up, end up co-parenting a dog that they have adopted from a local animal shelter or the veterinary clinic or something like that. They end up agreeing to co-parent. They've never met before, and they are both deeply passionate about Zeus, who is just adorable. We love Zeus. Zeus is awesome. And because they're co-parenting, they're spending a lot of time with each other, they're getting to know each other, they realize they have quite a bit in common in terms of the reasons behind why they wanted to adopt a dog. And yeah, they begin to spend all this time together. And while it's not a perfect HEA wrapped in a bow, we are definitely heading in that direction, and it was just utterly delightful. Like, it was so lovely to read. The audio was also fantastic. I also read Returning by Kirli Saunders, which is a poetry and art collection. So this is full color artwork, filled, illustrated, etc. Kirli Saunders is an Australian First Nations author and poet, and it was just a really wonderful to read. It covers a whole lot of things that she has experienced over the last few few years, including fires and floods, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, identifying as queer, discovering that she is neurodivergent, and all of these sorts of things that have come up in her life recently, and her place and her culture and the way that she connects with all of those things. There is a lot of joy in here as well. I had a really wonderful time reading this collection and I highly recommend it. This would fit for Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander author. It is published by Mykaela Press, which is an independent publishing house here in Australia. It is Aboriginal owned. I know it's coming up probably more red on screen. It is definitely orange. It is set in Australia. Parts of it would be hot setting. Like, it covers off on a lot of things. I also got an early copy a couple of days before the release of System Overload by Saxon James. This is the 5th book in the Divorced Men's Club series. This is a contemporary series. This is an ongoing series about a group of men who are all sort of in their 40s and divorced and finding new love. This one is a story that has kind of been bubbling away for the last couple of books. We've sort of seen it hinted at in previous books, and it is a best friend's dad age gap story. So we have Keller and Will. Keller is Molly's father, and Molly has already had his own book. So Molly and his best friend Will met in college, and they've been friends for years, and Will has become part of Keller's family just by virtue of being his son's best friend. And they met when Will was an adult. I think he was 20 or in his early 20s when he first met Keller. And he's been deeply attracted to Molly's dad for that whole time, but has never done anything because Molly's his best friend. The book opens with a moment that happens when Will is drunk, and they both agree to not talk about it for Molly's sake. But then Molly moves away and suggests that Will moves in with his dad so that he doesn't have to find a new place or move back in with his parents, etc., because Keller has the space. And Keller is, you know, that's fine, come in, you're part of our family, move in. So they have this forced proximity element. It is utterly delightful. The entire cast of characters in this divorced men's group are just hilarious. I absolutely love seeing them all pop up again. And I had a great time. It is fairly low angst. I think the biggest source of angst is about how Molly is going to react to the relationship when they finally tell him. And even that is done in a way that was just unexpected and highly enjoyable. So if that is your source of anxiety, relax. It will be fine. In this one, I loved that Keller is pansexual, so it's great pansexual rep, or at least it appears to be great pansexual rep. I'm not pansexual, so take that with a grain of salt, but I thought it was well handled. There is also sleepwalking rep in here, which I haven't seen in many romance books, and that was kind of cool. So I really enjoyed this one. This is an Australian author. It is a queer romance, so it would fit for that on the Australian Readathon. It is self-published by the author, so lots of options there. You could also just use it for your free space. And then finally, I read This All Come Back Now, edited by Mykaela Saunders. This is a collection of Australian First Nations speculative fiction. It was my members' pick for the members vlog, which is coming out this week. So I'm not going to talk about too much here because they get a more in-depth video on it. There are 24 stories. They are so good. It was such a good collection of stories. And while I will admit I didn't necessarily understand all of them, I probably need to do a reread of a few of the stories and just sort of let them sit and simmer for a little bit longer, but they are just fantastic. My favorite story in here is Myth This by, oh God, who is it? Lisa Fuller. Lisa Fuller's Myth This was my favorite. It's very much urban fantasy, horror-esque, about an Indigenous woman and her children who accidentally trespass on the lands of something from myth, and it has consequences. And I just loved reading it. It was very, very cool and very spooky, and I loved reading about it. And then there's a whole lot of other stories that all tackle different things. So you have everything from urban fantasy to horror to sci-fi to futuristic fiction, and some of them are longer than others. Some of them are microfiction stories. There is a really great, well-rounded collection in here, and it's highly worth picking up if you are interested at all in First Nations speculative fiction. So that is everything that I read this week. In the comments, I'd love to know what you have been reading, or if you've read any of these books, feel free to talk to me about them down below. Don't forget, if you haven't participated in my channel survey, it is linked in the description. Please fill it in. I will be sharing some feedback from it and how it's going to influence my channel in 2024 in December. So you've still got time. It's going to be open until probably the end of November. So if you have a moment, I would deeply appreciate it if you could fill it in. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a ghost emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.